Hey guys, I just wanted to go over a quick build that I've actually been working on. So, I decided to do a melee build, which I found to actually be quite fun. A lot of people have been talking about whether melee builds are viable or not, and I discovered that this one actually is. So, usually the main concern about doing a melee build is the fact that there are enemies that fly, or you need range to get them, whether it's a boss or regular minions. You usually need a gun. Well, I found out that with using this Huntress Spear, it becomes a bit more viable because the charge attack itself is actually ranged, which I'll show you real quick. And the damage on it is quite good. Now, this is the setup I've actually been using in Veteran. I've been using the Decayed Margin Amulet with it, which if you're doing a higher difficulty, I actually recommend that you do something with some DR. The Indignant Fetish is actually probably one of my favorite amulets because of the survivability along with the damage. And more likely, if you're in melee range, you're probably going to get hit from time to time. But for damaging purposes at the moment with testing, we'll use this amulet because it's the same 25% melee damage. The ring setup I have currently is 5% base melee damage dealt as lifesteal, that Dying Ember, which is really good. The Fey Warrior ring because it's melee damage. And the charge attack, even though you're throwing the spear, is going to be based off of melee damage. So this is all increasing the damage of the spear, whether you're up close or whether you're throwing it. The Haymaker's ring increases melee damage by 0.2% for every 1 point of armor encumbrance. Now your weight is going to be your armor encumbrance. So with this being at 75, we're going to get 15% melee damage from this ring as well. So just from these two rings, you're getting 30% melee damage. And then we have 30% crit damage, which in my opinion, this is not the best ring to be using. There's actually a ring that drops in Yasha that decreases charged weapon time by 25%. Now, what that means is as fast as I'm throwing this spear, if you guys actually get this ring, you are going to be throwing it 25% faster, which is crazy good. And we will move on to my secondary weapon is almost always this nebula. Why? The reason being is because I feel like no matter what type of build, no matter what type of setup you actually have, having corrosive is very good. Anytime you put corrosive on an enemy, they will take 10% more damage, like from all sources. So it's super good. I have feedback on it at the moment using this weapon. Mod generates 18% of the single charge of value of passive mod over 10 seconds, does not stack. Mod damage generates 10% of damage dealt as mod power. That's just something I have thrown on it at the moment. I'm not sure if that's min-maxed at the moment or not. As far as the actual Huntress Spear, I use Reinvigorate. Reduces stamina cost of all charged melee attacks by 50%. I have it at level 10. Melee charge attacks have 15% additional damage and 10% crit chance, which is perfect for the charge build because it can cost a bit of stamina actually throwing this thing. For my long gun or my primary weapon, I have Nightfall with momentum on it. The reason why I use Nightfall is not necessarily because I'm using the long gun very often. It's just Nightfall is such a good weapon, it adds to survivability. So if you get in a case where you need to hurry up and get some life or your HP drops a little bit, this becomes very key for getting your HP back up and avoiding damage for a little bit of time while you're doing so. It gives you a little bit more survivability because it's harder for you to get hit. I'm currently using a Crystal Heart with a full melee setup. Um, I would actually recommend, if you have it, probably using a Void Heart. Void Heart gives you 50% damage reduction, gives you health based off of the health that you've lost over time, and it does not have the movement speed reduction by 50%, so it kind of gets rid of that bad effect. As far as my armor setup, I use a Technician helmet, and the rest is Leto Mark II. The reason why I use this is because I feel like this is kind of the best armor setup. In other words, I hit the 75 weight, and I'll show you how, but I actually end up getting 240 armor, which is 64.3% damage reduction. Now, the reason why it's key getting 75 weight is because if you hit 76, you become too heavy. So hitting 75 is like the perfect mark for getting the most armor without flopping. So you'll still be able to actually dodge. Now, at the moment, my main class I'm using is actually an Invader. And my secondary is a Challenger. The reason why I use Invader is because the main thing about Invader is, or the prime perk, is you have Shadow. So cast an Invader skill, leaves a decoy for 3 seconds, and draws enemy fire, which is very good for survivability. But on top of that, you'll deal 10% additional damage to enemies that are not targeting you. So whenever they get distracted by that decoy, that will increase their damage by another 10%, which is really nice. And we're actually using Wormhole. So what ends up happening is Wormhole could be like a little bit of an escape as well as a damage buff. And you can actually aim it. So you could teleport behind an enemy. You'll get a 300% damage buff. You'll spawn a decoy so they'll be distracted, which then you get another 10%, so that's 310% damage. And then your next spear throw will do that much more damage, which is ridiculous. And it has a 28.2 cooldown on the build that I currently run. And you actually have 2 charges, so you can save up 2 charges of this. Now, the reason why we go Challenger is because being within a set amount of range, you get 35% increase to all damage, which it's 10 meters, and it starts to fall off until 20 meters, which you'd lose it. But you also get a 10% crit chance increase from being close. Now we run Juggernaut, which I feel like that's the best one to run for melee. I mean, you become nearly unstoppable. You gain 3 stacks of bulwark, which is 15% damage reduction. You gain 15% increased movement and melee speed, and 50% increased melee damage. And stagger levels reduced, so you won't get knocked around, okay? And that lasts for 25 seconds, which is awesome. And its cooldown on my setup is also 49 seconds, which it's up pretty regularly. We will go over the traits I'm currently running. So, best trait in my opinion, Fortify. No matter what armor you're running, having 50% more armor effectiveness is awesome. Okay, and then I have 1 point into regrowth at the moment. And the reason why is because I switch back and forth. If you want to use a haste ring, all you have to do is have some type of life regen, and it will be active 100% of the time. That means even if you only have 1 point into regrowth, you will have haste 100% of the time. And the ring is 7%, so 7% is actually pretty nice. We have Strong Back, which is from Challenger. We have Untouchable, which is from Invader. I have level 7 Vigor at the moment, which actually probably put another point into that. Having more health is always nice. Survivability. Endurance and Spirit is also just part of the class, so I'm not actually spec'd into those. I am, however, spec'd into Expertise, which I may take another point into Expertise for skill cooldown. And that being because we're actually casting the Wormhole pretty often. I feel like we're pretty dependent on our skills with this build as far as survivability, because you're doing a lot of damage with the rings. Now you can switch out particular things with rings, like when you take damage, you heal 10% over time. Kind of depends on the difficulty that you're playing in. The higher when you go up, if you're doing Nightmare or Apocalypse, you're probably going to want a little bit more survivability. But I feel like skill cooldown is highly important in this. We always take Bark Skin. 10% flat damage reduction is super good, especially if you're doing Nightmare or Apocalypse. I have 2 points into Arcane Strike for 10% melee mod generation, just because we're meleeing so often, and even doing ranged, that counts for this. And level 10 Shade Skin, 20% elemental damage reduction. That's just because I'm doing Nightmare and Apocalypse so often. I need as much damage reduction as I can. And Siphoner, which is 3% lifesteal. Lifesteal just is phenomenal. Probably also one of the best traits that you can get, and it's stacking with our melee. So it's 8% lifesteal when we're hitting melee off the base damage. And then also when you're using Nightfall, whenever you proc its ability, you're actually getting the 10% lifesteal plus that 3%, so you're getting 13% lifesteal on that as well. So I'm actually going to show you real quick some of the damage. Weak point damage, some of the numbers. So 1600, 3000, and that's just a basic crit. That's not using any of our abilities. The Parker Challenger ability, 3700, 3700, 2000. Those are pretty good numbers. As far as the wormhole, 3600, and that wasn't even a crit. I like to apply corrosive before I use it. 6,666 damage. So just to show you that this melee is actually somewhat viable. The biggest thing to overcome with melee is flying creatures and things at range. And I feel like this build kind of covers that. I'm not saying it's perfect. The Krell Axe may even be a very good option as far as just being able to throw it. But I will say it's very fun, and it's something you can actually use. I mean, I've fought bosses with it. Obviously, I kill flying enemies with it, no problem. Getting another 25% charge damage would also be very nice. But yeah, let me know if you guys like the build. If you do, please like and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this, comment. Or if you have any unique builds yourself that I would like to try out or see what I could do with, please leave that in the comments as well. One of the great things about this game is the fact that there are so many build variations and things that we could do and things we have not even discovered yet. So if you have any unique ideas or things that you found out that synergize really well, let me know, because I'd like to try it out too. Well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you.